Joining us via Zoom, Temilade Olapode, the Deputy Compliance Manager, Lasako Assurance PLC. Good morning, Temilade.
Good morning. Good
Oh,
morning. Thank you for having me.
thank you for joining us on Early Exchange today. So, we're looking at the regulation of insurance practice in Nigeria and maybe by extension in Africa. Now, let's start. Why is regulation at this point in our insurance practice necessary to start with? Because we're not new in insurance in Nigeria here. Why do we need to step up regulations at this point in our country?
Okay, so majorly, at the crux of it all is the consumer's protection. At the crux of it all, and insurance really is giving you a guarantee that for any loss you are covered. But at the crux of it is the consumer's protection. The consumers are protected against perpetration of any insurance company, and particularly to adequately protect the public interest.
All right, now, so how does the current
Hello.
regulatory framework ensure transparency in the sector?
Okay, so we have quite a number of regulatory frameworks, one of which is the introduction of the NICOM portal, which sees your production real time. It helps to ensure the genuineness of policies. It can it assigns IG to policies, and so you can regulators can see at a glance that it is the same products being offered by various insurance companies.
Okay, let's look at the challenges of regulating insurance practice in Nigeria. It has not been very easy for NICOM, so we learned. But what are the peculiar challenges that regulating the practice faces in Nigeria?
Okay, so I would say the regulatory complexity. It's also the insurance costs, in increased enforcement, and sometimes inconsistent enforcement. So for compliance costs, while the big insurance companies can afford it, the ones coming up might not be able to afford it. And then the complexity in regulations, the changes in regulation, the climate changes, some of these things are keeping abreast with the various innovations of the regulators. And sometimes the tools needed to keep abreast and keep in compliance with these regulations are not provided.
All right, in terms of consumer protection, what structure is in place to ensure that the policyholder have access to accurate information so they are well aware of whatever products they are taking, the terms that goes with it, in terms of the premium they pay, the extent of coverage, and the process to payment of claims?
Okay, so aside NICOM, we have other supervisory bodies. We have the ARIAN, the NCRIP, the CIN. Our customers can always get this information online. Particularly, I spoke earlier about the NICOM portal. Consumers are permitted to log in and view those products. They are permitted to log in and decide the insurance company they want to go with. But then the regulators have ensured that these products are the same everywhere. The peculiarities of each product embedded in each product are the same. So because of the regulation, you cannot find a different thing in two various insurance companies. But particularly, there's the NICOM complaints portal that was created primarily for the consumers. So if a consumer has a question, complaints, grievances, they can take it up with our regulators directly.
Okay, now, speaking about the NICOM complaints portal, how accessible is this portal, number one? And what is the speed of response of NICOM when consumers go there to lodge complaints, from your experience?
Okay, the portal is accessible to all. It's accessible to even persons that do not have insurance with us, or probably beneficiaries of an insurance claim. You can access it. Everybody, it's accessible to all. However, the turnaround time, I might not be able to speak to that because I don't work with regulators. But I know that the beauty of the portal is while the complainant is lodging his complaints, the insurance company can also see the complaint being lodged against them. And so resolutions are already put in place.
Now, are there regulations regarding sensitization, creating awareness of how the insurance industry works or how insurance works, and whose responsibility is it to carry out these awareness campaign or sensitization?
Okay, so like I said, aside NICON, we have the ARIAN, which is the Association of Insurance Agents. We have the ENCRIP, Association of Insurance Brokers. We have the FAIRHEAD, but particularly the insurance companies themselves periodically um, write-ups about their periodically train the insurance companies on how and the peculiarities of whatever guidelines they've released.
Okay. Now,
Hello?
yes, we can hear you. So one of the complaints of consumers is that there is no transparency, so to speak, in insurance practice for policyholders. We spoke earlier about not being able to read the fine print of insurance. What frameworks are put in place to ensure that there is transparency at every stage along the insurance value chain supply? What are the frameworks put in place to ensure transparency of insurance practitioners as they go about their duties?
Okay, transparency. Like I said, with the NICOM portal, the regulators can see on a real-time basis how the businesses is being run. But particularly for the consumers and the policyholders, is like I explained earlier, the complaints portal, but even the NICOM portal is free to all. There are ways where you can log in as the insurance company and log in as a consumer. So like I said, you can see real time the peculiarities embedded in each product offered and the change, the variance that might be between one complaint to another complaint.
Are there challenges in the industry that perhaps the regulatory framework does not accommodate? What would you propose?
Okay, one of the challenges would be the low penetration of insurance in the country generally. And I would say this deserves to be decided at the top. And until our government understands the essence of insurance, we will continue going around in circles, really. The middleman or the high class are the ones benefiting from insurance. But what happens to the grassroots? These are the ones that actually need this insurance. So the penetration and the fact that over time, people have lost trust in insurance. So I don't know how our regulators can come about bringing about penetration of insurance to the society.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the use of technology, even to monitor compliance. You mentioned the fact that there's this NICOM portal. I wanted to ask you then, is it that all the steps of insurance policy taking and execution have been digitized? Because you said that NICOM can actually measure or monitor real time what is going on. Have you digitized every step for you to say, okay, yes, we can monitor from our end here?
But the truth is we're getting there. The insurance company is not as robust as a bank.
Okay.
Industry, but we're getting there.
All right, let's talk about solvency. Now, part of the regulatory framework is to ensure that all insurance companies must maintain a minimum level of solvency. Are we actually seeing that? And would you like to speak to the threshold? What is the minimum level of solvency for each insurance company in Nigeria?
Excuse me. So it depends on the type of insurance you offer. For those offering life insurances only, they moved from 2 million to 4 million, if I'm correct. And then for those offering general insurances, they moved from 4 to 8 billion. And then for those that offer the composite insurance, they moved from 8 to 15 thereabouts. I really can't speak. I can't be accurate on the amounts at this point. But the essence of the solvency was to ensure that the strength of each insurance company was also to ensure the stability of the insurance being offered. It's also to protect, like I said, at the crux of it all is the consumer's protection. So to ensure that insurance companies do not go under, there's still a capital that can protect the consumer's the policyholders' funds. Hence why the capitalization bond or the capital adequacy was introduced. And it helps the insurance companies to know their strength. It helps them to perhaps focus on their strengths. It helps them to, okay, we might not be able to continue doing composite, we might need to only offer general businesses. Or yes, we can do composites and we have the capacity to do so.
Okay. Okay, now, earlier in your submission, you mentioned the fact that one basic challenge of regulation is the cost of compliance, and some new entrants into the field may not be able to afford the cost of compliance. I would have thought that the cost should be graded upward. There should be a minimum entry, cost requirement for new entrants, while the other ones that have gained some traction in the industry are able to do it at a level. Is there no such gradation of the cost of compliance, or is just one cost fits all for every practitioner?
I would say it's one cost fits all.
Wow.
But about the threshold or the minimum, that's to be decided by the regulators.
Okay.
Okay, in the payment of claims, in trying to comply with that claims are paid for certain kinds of insurance, do you encounter any, or the insurance companies encounter any challenge in actually trying to assess the value of whatever property that was insured? Take, for instance, let's say someone who's a farmer insures a farm. I don't know if we have such kind of insurance that insures such in Nigeria. But at the time something goes wrong, maybe a disaster happens, do you have issues with that, assessing the value of the farm so that payment of claims can be made as it went due?
Oh, okay. So insurance is way more robust than you're thinking. At the inception of business transactions, we inspect. We have assessors that does this inspection for us. At the point of claims, too, we inspect the extent of damage and you're particular about the insurances that were covered, the peculiarities of the insurance. The truth is, you and I can both take third-party motor insurance, but the peculiarities of both insurance can differ. So yes, we insure claims, but the claims payment will be based on the hazards that were covered at the inception of business transaction.
Okay, so let's look at the processes of getting claims.
And of course, we have the use of loss assessors that affect the extent of damage.
All right. So the processes of getting claims, because most of the policy holders, insurance policy holders here don't really understand how to go about, getting their claims. And we just spoke earlier before you joined on the need for us to educate the masses and communicate how insurance works. Could you please speak to some of the processes of getting claims in case of eventuality? Okay, so
claims procedure is at the point of damage or loss, you must notify your insurance company immediately. You must be able to speak to the extent of damage. It depends on the type of insurance that was taken. And then it depends if it's something that the insurance company themselves can assess, or they might need to call in a loss assessor or a loss adjuster, the case may be. Particularly once you've notified your insurance company of a loss or a damage, and then they ensure that this damage was actually covered, and then they move on to you providing evidence of the damage, you providing evidence that it actually was an insurance you are taking out on. Using the agriculture she mentioned earlier, if a farmer were to approach us and we gave him agriculture insurance, if the insurance was just to cover the cost of crops, and then drought came in and that drought was not covered, we won't pay. Really, but the process of insurance claim is you notify immediately a claim occurs or a damage occurs, and we determine if that claim was covered at inception. And I assure you, the insurances of those days are no longer what they are today. claims remissions are done within 2-3 days max. Depends on how quick the policyholder or the claimant, in this case, is able to provide information necessary for assessing the claim.
What are the new trends in the insurance sector, and do we have the framework that catches up with that trend to ensure that it is in line with the new trends?
Okay, so new trends, future trends, I would say has to do with digitalization, digital transformation, climate change, inflation. I will speak to inflation in that. So I know that inflation has affected a lot of industries, but particularly high affect insurance. Insurance brings about economic growth, but where the masses can no longer afford to use insurance, it's going to affect the bottom line of the GDP. It's going to affect the layman that is not sure of what the future holds and cannot afford the insurance to cover what the future holds. I want to talk about digital transformation. We all know that we are moving towards digitalization of processes. So is the insurance industry of today ready to move or ready to be at par with other industries in the country?
Okay. So this particular question is one that has bothered a lot of people. My understanding of insurance compensation, or let's say compensation for now, is that insurance restores your property to the original state at which it was insured rather. So meaning if I insure a car at the value of 1.5 million naira, if theft happens or damage or whatever, insurance is meant to restore my car to that 1.5 million naira state. Let us assume I've paid premiums for like maybe 5 years, 10 years, nothing happened to it, and you still want to restore my car to the initial state. What happens if that 1.5 million cannot take care of the need of my car at that point in time? Who takes care of the gap there?
Okay, so if, like you have explained, the insurance has been on for 10 years, there has been no claim over the years. There's what we call the no claims discount. You get that. But note that the value at that time, 10 years ago, is not the same 10 years after. But however, there's room for you over the number of years to have increased the premium and the capacity. So if you started with 1.5 10 years ago, it is expected that over the years, if you feel the value is increasing, you increase the value of the insurance.
All right.
Do you understand?
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, and I also spoke about no claims discount. So if for 10 years consecutively you've had to pay insurance premium and you've not had a claim for 10 years, you still get your no claims discount, depending on the type of insurance you take and the complaint involved.
All right, in communicating the terms of an insurance policy to the policy holder, let's look at the third-party insurance, for instance. A lot of car owners or some car owners just take this up as trying to fulfill all the requirements of the papers, necessary papers they must have to move their vehicles on the road. Now, if over a period of time it is observed that a number of people who have taken up that insurance after so many years do not even file for claims, does that suggest that nothing has happened to their vehicle, or they've not had the need, or they do not even know that perhaps they were supposed to file for claims when something happens, and opens up the conversation of lack of understanding of the policy that they've had? So who now has the responsibility of communicating to the policyholder to ensure that they are completely aware of the benefits of the policy they've taken on?
Oh, believe me, there's no one as of today that I know of or I've heard of that does not understand the benefits of insurance, except the grassroots, like I earlier mentioned. But then anyone taking up a third-party insurance today is just securing the future, the unknown of what happens. Let me secure the uncertainty that I might have an accident, or there might be a theft, there might be fire, anything could happen to the car. But that they are not claiming is probably most likely because they don't have claims. But for those that have claims and they don't come to claim, yes, I would agree that they are not well informed. But that information is, sometimes it's been said that information is in the books. Do you read it is the question. So when they take out insurance with us, all the things are taken out. They are written down in their policy documents. If they do not read and understand it, they expect to also contact us and ask questions. But particularly the penetration, like I said, it belongs to the regulators, not we, the practices.
Okay.
Do you understand? So we assume, or it is expected that anybody that takes out an insurance should know the benefits of taking out such insurances. And I want to comment on the fact that our regulators are actually making some insurances compulsory. Because the truth is, before now, a lot of vehicles are on the road and they don't have the simple third-party insurances on them, much less talk about comprehensive insurance.
Okay.
Do you understand? So I applaud the regulators for ensuring some compulsory insurances are put in place.
All right. So from the point of compliance, let's look at 5 years from now. Where do you see insurance regulation with respect to the level of compliance and playing the game faithfully on the part of practitioners? 5 years projection from now, where do you see insurance compliance to regulation?
I really have high hopes for insurance compliance aspects. I would say that with the recent innovations of our regulators, where they can see us real time, they have released several circulars and guidelines to. There are recent guidelines as early as 2022. I would say that 5 years from now, the insurance industry will be well structured, where there will be no variations from one insurance company to another. So yes, I have high hopes for insurance.
All right, now let's look at the role of the policyholder. Are there infractions that a policyholder can commit while taking up certain insurance policy? Just educate on them.
Yes, of course. So, like I said, each insurance is different. It depends on the kind of insurance you take out. But then there are some caveats that have been put in place. So if you expect that, okay, let me use a lay third-party insurance, motor third-party insurance. So if you told us that you're using this car for Uber, for instance, and then strictly for probably carrying the passengers, or you have said that it is for transport of goods, and it is from within so location. So if you come to us and then you tell us that a claim occurred or a damage occurs outside of the location you had earlier advised us, we will not honor such claims. We won't, because you yourself have not honored the terms of the agreement.
Okay.
What about in payment? What about in payment of premiums? What is the window with which you should renew your premiums? And what happens when you don't renew within that window?
Oh, well, there's an extra 30 days grace, and then it also is at the discretion of the insurance company. So if I have a client that's been with me for over 10 years and has been consistent in payment of his premium, if probably at the 11th year it wasn't consistent, I can give him a number of days grace to make such payments, after which I'm not obliged to cover him. So if it's taken out, if it comes after the days of grace, the insurance will be starting afresh. A new period of cover will be issued.
Okay. On a very last note, let me ask you, are there compliance gaps on the part of practitioners, and how should NICOM address these gaps?
Okay, so some of the gaps would be, I said earlier, constant change in regulations. So it can really be strain us keeping abreast with trends in the regulation. It's sometimes guidelines are released, and while you're still trying and struggling to understand those guidelines, more guidelines are coming up. The regulators are not explaining from what they expect of you, and so you start seeing different interpretation of guidelines. So yes, I would say that that's one major challenge of compliance. And really, our regulators need to do better when they release guidelines or directives, they should explain or call for trainings, as the case may be, so we understand where they're coming from or where they're going.
All right, thank you very much for letting us know, Temilade Olapode, the different angles when it comes to regulation. So the insurance companies themselves have to comply with the regulatory framework, and also
Yes,
the policyholder have their roles to play to ensure that it's a smooth operation.
Yes.
We appreciate your time with us today on Early Exchange.